Welcome back. The controversy surrounding the dissolution of the joint ad hoc committee probing the importation of adulterated petroleum products into the country and other infractions in the nation's oil and gas sector by the leadership of the House of Representatives is gathering momentum. Now, the joint committee, headed by Rep. Ikenga Ugochinyere from Imo State and Rep. Henry Okojie from Edo State, was disbanded on Monday via a statement signed by the spokesperson of the House of Reps. Now, with strong allegations of corruption and calls for the heads of top chiefs within the oil player and regulatory sector, of course, we also understand that one is left to wonder how all this will pan out eventually. Well, joining me on the program at this time to shed more light on this, I have my guest. I have Sowunmi Olabode. He is an oil and gas consultant from Lagos, joining virtually. I also have Oshiohkue Philip. Is actually a human rights activist who also joins virtually from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, great. Let me, of course, start off with you, Philip. Let's, take it piecemeal. Let's start with what you think of the operations of the NNPC, because in recent days, it seems like it has come under intense scrutiny, not just from government officials, but even, elder statesmen, the likes of the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, actually even, advocated that officials within that sector be seriously probed. Aside many other allegations, the back and forth between the NNPC and regulatory bodies and even the Dangote Refinery. What do you make of the operations of the NNPC in Nigeria's oil and gas sector for the longest of time?
Of course, it has over time been a cabal that a good number of Nigerians who operate in that sector has held this country to its knees. And then you don't expect this cabal to sit back and watch the profits they make taken away from them by Dangote, who is coming to refine and send to the Nigerian market the same crude oil they send out, refine, and they make profit in importing to us finished products. So definitely, you should expect them to fight back. This is not new to some of us who understand how this does play out. But again, we should realize the fact that the cabal in the oil sector will not allow any form of development. One of the reasons why Nigerians trooped out in the streets to ask for, proper governance, this cuts across every sector, including. He would not absolve him of what we have faced over the years. Yeah, he was accused of monopoly. I would not want to delve into that conversation right now. But again, that is the truth in one way or the other. So the elites are, the president, Obasanjo, also told us how much he had invited, I think, Shell, when he was the president, to come help us run the refinery and ask them to take 10 or 20% stake. But they refused. And they told him, well, to not even allow them come manage the refinery for us. And we know how much of billions of dollars that have always been pushed into the refineries to revamp them. But cabal you are trying to fight right now. So Obasanjo also stated that selling the refinery is even a bit worthless because nobody is going to or willing to buy the refineries below $200 million. But we know how many billions of dollars they always put in there to revamp this refinery. Strong cabal that has always kept us on our knees, and then you don't expect them to fold their hands and find Nigerians having fun in that sector. They make a whole hell of money from this, and they would always fight. So for the fight between them and the Dangote refinery, we know it is expected, even though the Dangote refinery has been conceived in the last decade, and they just came into fruition, but they have denied him the access to the crude. They would prefer to sell this crude out there, import it, export this crude, and then import refined products, making their whole profits without thinking of the interest of the country.
All right, let me leave you for a moment, Philip. Let me go to Sowunmi on this one. Sowunmi, I mean, you've had quite a number of things that Philip has said. He kept making reference to the strong cabal. I mean, this is something that we've had over time, particularly when it comes to that particular sector. Now, my question still remains the same. What do you make of the operations of the NNPC over the years, particularly in ensuring that Nigeria, has some level of oil security, oil and gas security? Have they, been a solution to the problem, or are they part of the problem?
Okay, good evening. Thanks for having me. I am not a politician and I'm not an activist. I'm a professional. So my job is to analyze the issues and people can form whatever opinion they want to make out of it.
Okay, so what do you make of it as a professional?
Yes, so that's what I'm just giving that as a background, because I'm not going to be giving opinions. I'm just going to be talking about the issues so people can form their opinions on it. So the oil and gas industry is responsible for close to 80% of our forex, our foreign exchange. And over the years, that has dwindled. In fact, the first record of pipeline intervention, that is people trying to steal from the pipelines in terms of records from the IOCs, dates back as far back as 1983. So it is really not a new thing. However, there's hardly any institution in Nigeria, be it in the oil and gas industry, be it in agric, be it in health, be it in sports, that does not leave much to be desired. NNPC is a product of the system. The idea that NNPC, despite its humongous and imperfections, is fighting one particular industry stakeholder is something that needs to be queried further. And I say that because it is on record that NNPC invested in the Dangote Refinery contrary to the advice of the refinery department. In other words, at the point that NNPC was putting in billions, a few billions into Dangote, the deal itself is not transparent. The refinery department and other departments within NNPC were against it. So I don't know how that can translate to hating. But what are the issues? Dangote Refinery is saying that they need to make a certain amount of crude oil available to them. And NNPC, as well as NUPRC, which is the regulator, is saying that they are not able to make that crude oil available to them. And the Dangote Refinery is saying that whatever amount of crude is available should be made available to them and not sold. But what people are not understanding is that Nigeria has contractual obligations. In other words, this forex that we get, we have actually signed contract obligations with people that we owe, those which the previous governments have made forward sales and have already sold those cargoes to. There are also people that we make contracts with that we sell to regularly from where we get our foreign exchange earnings. If those contracts, if what Dangote Refinery is expecting should take place, what it means is that those contracts will be violated. It means that we will be taken to court as a country, international court, and we will also have crises in terms of credibility. There are certain things that just will not happen. So sometimes it is better to look at the issues holistically rather than trying to do a blame game and having a phantom guilty person, which in this case is the cabal, which, I don't know what that means, but I guess the people that use it should be able to explain better. But the fact of the matter is that this is a mature industry. This is an industry that is almost 100 years old. And this is an industry that has evolved with the imperfections of Nigeria to be what it is. You cannot be a new player and suddenly be more knowledgeable than every other person.
Sowunmi, I'm sorry to interject. You made reference to contractual obligations that Nigeria is a part of. Are those contractual obligations maybe some of the reasons why, in terms of her domestic energy obligations this time around, Nigeria is not able to meet up?
Well, I'm not able to say why we are not able to meet our domestic obligations, but I can tell you that we have obligations in terms of the crude that we sell. So those are those contracts.
Can you sort of give more insight into those contractual obligations, please?
In simple terms, whether it is crude oil, whether it is gas and all that, we have signed contracts to sell crude to people. So when you sign contracts, you have an obligation. The person has an obligation to buy, to make money available, and you have an obligation to sell. So there's a contract. So if you violate that contract, it's called breach of contract. It's one of the most fundamental things in law.
I understand, but I mean, can you be more specific in terms of maybe the countries or the companies? But I understand that we need to go on a break now. When we return, we'll pick up from there. Many thanks for staying with us. You are still watching Politics HQ on News Central Television. I still have my guest with me. Sowunmi Olabode is an oil and gas expert, consultant actually, and I also have Philip Oshiohkue, is a human rights activist, both joining virtually. Thank you for staying with me, gentlemen. We are still on the NNPC versus Dangote face-off that, of course, has made headlines across the nation. Let me still stay with you, Sowunmi. You talked about contractual obligations. I would like you to be more specific, to some that you may be privy to. And also, it's not just Dangote talking about shortfall in terms of crude supply. There's also another report of the Edo State Refinery, where Edo Refinery laments lack of crude supply by the NNPC, even though they claim to be fully functional with a capacity to produce at least 1,000 barrels per day.
First of all, it's not my responsibility to be discussing people's contracts. So if you want to know details,
you mentioned it. So I mean, it's okay.
Hold on. If you want me to answer, let me answer to the best of the question. Okay. You asked about reason why crude is not available, and I said that there are contractual obligations. That is public knowledge. That is public knowledge. I mean, if you investigate, you'll find out that we do sell crude, and it's been in the papers. As to the details of the contract, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to violate terms of law. So people have contracts. Those are obligations of the parties involved. The parties involved in this contract, in this case, will be NNPC representing Nigeria, and the third parties they are sending it to, and maybe the maritime companies that are involved. If you want to get details of that, NNPC will be the people that are legally obligated to do that. You can ask them, and I'm sure they should be able to, because I don't think it's particularly
anyway, the reason why I posed it to you is because you brought it up, but it's fine. Let's talk about okay, or would you like to continue?
Yes, the point I raised, so that we don't lose focus, is that you cannot just take the crude that we have and give it to somebody else when there is a contractual obligation to sell that crude, which had been existing before that party came into place. And when you do that, there are graver consequences than the issues that are currently being discussed. That is the point I'm trying to raise in all of that.
Okay, let me go to Philip. Philip, I'd like your reaction.
Well, I want my colleague on this program to understand that whatever contract that must have been entered was entered on behalf of the Nigerian people. And the Nigerian people does deserve to know. There is no way you will tell us those contracts you are not in a position to do that. That's why let's know this contract. Let's know who are these participants in this contract. And that contract has a start and an end date. And the Dangote Refinery has been in the pipeline over time. All this should be in the public knowledge to know that over time, at this point, because we have an indigenous refinery now that will help us refine our crude and send to the Nigerian market. So they should have been able to state all this. Okay, you have a start date between so-so year and so-so year, between so-so year and so-so year. And there is nothing that stops you from terminating your contract when it has reached its peak, when it's right. You have the right to say, I will no longer continue with the contract because we have fully reached the terminal point for this first stage of the contract or second stage, whatever it may be. And then when you talk about the contract shows evidence of all this, it should be published. Let Nigerians know, because we cannot continue like this. For me, I believe it's just an excuse to hit left, right, and center. And does the contract says every crude oil that is generated from the Nigerian soil must be sold out? What quantity goes to A company, B company outside the shores of this country? Let us know. Let's know when the contract starts and when it ends. So that at the end of the day, it's not like you're telling us there's a contract, when you go out of it, you are breaching. Is it a lifetime contract you have signed with foreigners against our own indigenous refineries? No wonder they have kept the refineries moribund for way too long. And these are some of the issues Nigerians are asking about. See, the probe is beyond what we'll just sit over the television here and have the conversation. This is a probe that the whole Nigerians should be interested in. You know, like I said, one of the reasons why we got into streets to ask for accountability, end of bad governance, this is also one of the reasons. All sectors of the economy. So we should not just use English to, whitewash this conversation and just feel it's all well. We can just come and have some form of defense and then it's all well.
Sorry, Philip, I might just need to leave you for a moment. Let me go to Sowunmi. Let's talk about the issue of moribund refineries within the country. I remember having a conversation on this program with the former Minister of Communications, and said, in the previous administration, talking about the Buhari administration, and he talked about that, and he said one of the reasons why that administration might not have been able to deliver on any of those refineries is corruption. I would like to know your take. What do you think might have been responsible for these refineries, in spite of the monies being voted for their revamp, not working? And then we have a private one that, has committed so much money, finding it so difficult to, get working fully.
See, look, I'm not a politician, like I said.
No, I know, but to the best of your knowledge.
Hold on. If you are calling me, it means you want to hear my view. And if you don't want to hear my view, so be it. When you call a communication person to come and give you expert analysis on an engineering field, what do you want him to say? You want him to talk about the refinery process? Dangote Refinery is demanding crude oil. That is 100% correct. That is 100% legitimate, and they should be given. But as Dangote Refinery produced a single drop of petrol, it is yet to produce petrol. There are other issues that are at play. I think it is incumbent upon you people to first get into a proper knowledge of the issues. Now, let me take the issues one by one. My brother that spoke initially said something about contract needs to be made public. The contract that your company has with your vendors, are they public information? I'm talking about News Central. The contract that you have with DSTV, is it public information? There is a right that every Nigerian has to demand information. It's called under the Freedom of Information Bill. But there is a process to it. If you are very deeply interested as an activist or as a journalist to know these details, why don't you pursue the law under the Freedom of Information Act and get the information that...
Mr. Olabode, I'm sorry I need to come in here. I believe that's why I believe that's why we are having this conversation is, number one, to learn, and then number two, to at least listen from your own perspective. You seem to be, maybe there's a miscommunication here. I am not attacking you. What I'm asking is, as a professional, what do you think might be the issues? So maybe there's a miscommunication. It's not an attack on you. As a professional, you've given instances, which of course, Nigerians are listening and paying attention. And then I ask you another question, and I mean, it's not an attack on your person, sir. My question is, what do you think are the issues?
When it comes to the NNPC refinery issues, when it comes to the NNPC refinery issues, except you are inside the refinery, you can only guess and analyze based on the information that is made publicly available. What is public information based on the annual reports and the things that have been suggested is that there is a fault, there is an issue with respect to how the refineries itself were designed. That's number one. Number two is that the original companies that designed the refineries, which in this case used to be, they were from the old USSR, but are now in Ukraine, a number of all those companies have ceased to exist. So what they use in a lot of times when they try and do this turnaround maintenance is to get companies who have similar type of operations for it. Now, is the process perfect? I sincerely doubt that. Will there be corruption involved? Most probably. However, it is simplistic, very simplistic to just say that the reasons the refineries are not working is corruption. There are multiple factors that are there. And when people don't understand a matter, it is first incumbent upon them to understand the issues before voicing very strong opinions. This country, if we succeed in damaging the structure and the foundation of the oil and gas industry just to please a few people, it is still the same country that will suffer. So what we are trying to say as professionals and what we try to bring out here is this. NNPC refineries has its issues, and they have always had their issues. Their issues should not be confused with the issues that Dangote Refinery has. And the two of them should not be mixed up, because for one to survive is not dependent on the other. And so there is no need mixing the issues up for the two. The core issue at play is the demand by the Dangote Refinery to get a specific volume of crude. And the truth is that based on the issues that are at play, based on the demands and the obligations of the country, it cannot get that need. It cannot get that amount. Blackmail, activism will not convert financial, economic realities and refinery realities. It will not turn it upside down.
Okay.
So there is a responsibility on everyone to first know what the issues and not try and break the industry so that a few people will be happy.
All right.
Those are my views on that.
All right. Thank you for that. I understand that we need to go on a quick break to pay some bills. When we return, of course, we'll pick up. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. You are still watching News Central. Now, before we, of course, wrap up, I would just like to take 30 seconds. Philip, your final thoughts.
Yes, my final thoughts would be one. I can understand that my co-guest on this show
can you just make it on the issue, please? Try not to make reference to him.
It's actually on the issue. I can see that Mr. Sowunmi is trying not to lose his job by tomorrow morning, so he will come to defend the NNPC. But we know that the NNPC is involved in corruption, deep corruption, and that is why you find the queues in our filling stations today. See the high cost of fuel. See even the removal of subsidy.
Philip,
in a nutshell, the corruption that seems so deep to the point where we have found out the NNPC. So nobody should sit and tell us, oh, there's a structure, there's a foundation. There's no structure, there's no foundation anymore. And I will posit again, the only way we can get out of this quagmire is a revolution. Asking Nigerians to demand what is rightfully theirs.
All right, Philip, I'm sorry, but we really need to go. Mr. Olabode, your final thoughts, 30 seconds, sir.
When you make, being an activist does not give you a right to make wild accusations. I come from a family of activists. Now, I am feeling that telling me, you don't know what I do. I'm an independent person. I don't work for the NNPC. You are saying I want to lose my job. What if I get a lawyer to sue you? What if I get a lawyer to sue New Central, defaming me?
Mr. Olabode, Mr. Olabode,
I need to.
I'm sorry. I think I clarified
you need to
that.
On air. This is not social media.
I'm sorry,
implications.
Mr. Olabode, I need to be clear on this. That News Central never said that. That's the opinion of Mr. Philip, and I clarified that before he answered. Thank you very much, sir. On that note, I'm sorry, we need to go. Thank you so much for your time. Mr. Sowunmi Olabode is an oil and gas consultant from Lagos. He joins virtually. And also Philip Oshiohkue is a human rights activist who also joined virtually from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you. In case you missed today's episode, you can actually catch up on YouTube. And it's also important that I state also again that the opinions of our guests remains theirs and not that of News Central. My name is Dakwade Boye. Bye for now.